secret location, the city that moves mountains.
Greetings.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
How's it going today, Dirtydan?
Going well, my friend. How about you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Episode 53, very special episode 53. Episode 54 will also be a very special episode as well. We are still on break, and in this episode coming up, we're not going to have any listener email. We're going to have, for the first time on the Here To Chew Bubblegum podcast, we're going to have a new segment that's been played on the radio show for about a month. I'm talking about the mountain mysteries with, Mountain Appalachian Mysteries with our friend of the show, Seth Amburgey. And we're also going to have, believe it or not, coming up in this episode as well.
And that's spelled Knott.
Yes, Knott for Knott County, where myself and Justin are from. That makes this episode special. What makes it even very special is we have a very special interview with the Spooky Family from thespookyfamilypodcast.com. They were in the studio a few weeks ago, and we broke that up in parts on our radio show, but some listeners to the podcast don't listen to the radio shows. So this is not in segments, not in parts. This is the full interview coming up right here on episode 53 of Here To Chew Bubblegum. So be sure to stick around for that. We just got done recording a radio show. And like I said, we're still on break. We're coming back very soon. And we will be coming back with a brand new episode that we will record and drop on November 21st, and I'm talking about The Office Special. Myself, Rebecca, and friend of the show, Eli Griffith, will be talking about The Office. We'll be having an Office trivia game. If there's any big, like NASA or UFO news, we may, not necessarily NASA, but if there's anything big going on, we may lead off with that. But that show, which will be episode 55, will be entirely devoted to The Office. Will be could have a new opening just for that episode, possibly. And, we'll be talking about facts, interesting behind the scenes stuff, maybe have some sound clips. I'm definitely looking forward to that. This show may not be for everybody because there's some people that I have known in my life and still know that don't like The Office. And that
straight up hate The Office.
Yeah. And my basic thing to them was when they tell me it's not funny and I say it's a smart comedy, they don't understand what that says. And then they get it. And I've always told them it is a smart comedy. So.
Ouch, burn.
Well, I mean,
it's like I just stuck my foot in a George Foreman grill.
Yeah. That's what she said. But it's true. I mean, it is a smart comedy. You have to,
There's a lot of dry humor in it.
Yes.
Especially in the Robert California season.
Yes, there is. And
I know a lot of people that just literally hate Steve Carell. They can't ever give me a reason why.
He's a comedy genius. I mean,
he is, and they're like, "Oh, we like it when Will Ferrell." First off, I love Will Ferrell, but when he's in The Office, I literally refuse to watch those episodes. Yeah. It's the dumbest part. And then they're like, "Oh, I love Robert California," or whatever that actor's name is. I can't remember. So they only watch that, and they refuse to deal with Steve Carell. Like, what is wrong with you people?
Steve Carell made that show. So, but we'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks more in depth. Again, that's episode 55 of Here To Chew Bubblegum, The Office Special.
So, speaking of shows that, it used to be on Netflix, and that's a whole other thing, but you, sir, need to check out Inside Job on Netflix.
Okay, I would definitely have to check that out. I'm excited because I think this week, November the 9th, is on Tuesday, I think the Curse of Oak Island starts a new season. So I'm very excited about that. I know you are too. My better half hates that show.
This is the season that I talked about when I first came on board.
Yeah.
That they've finally finished filming and production on and are getting ready to release it.
Well, I am totally looking forward to this. About, I guess, 2 seasons ago, maybe 3, I was really pissed off at the end of the season. I was really pissed off. And I'm like, I'm not going to watch this anymore. But I did because
Naturally.
I have invested so many years. I have to watch it to the end. And, they're definitely going to find something because they're doing so many other shows now. Not so many other, but there was the one last year, that the host of the show did. And I can't think of his name. He does Drilling Down. But he would go out, Marty, and his brother would send him on different places to check out. Like one, they went to Arizona and was visiting like an old West hideout place. And the one guy from the Curse of Oak Island, the metal detector guy, Gary. He was in that episode, and they recovered a bunch of shell casings and other stuff from that site. So I definitely think this is going to be the season that they are going to find something.
I agree.
But we want to remind everyone that you can always call, text, or leave a voicemail by calling 606-373-3396. That's 606-373-3396. Or you can email. How can they do that, Dirty Dan?
Well, I suppose they could email you, Goose at Here To Chew Bubblegum.com, me, Dirtydan at Here To Chew Bubblegum.com, or Rebecca at Here To Chew Bubblegum.com. You can also email them to the show, Ned or Elliot at Here To Chew Bubblegum at Yahoo.com.
Yes, you are correct. We're going to get started. We're going to go straight into the Mysterious Appalachian Mountains with Seth, we're going to go straight into the Mysterious Appalachian Mountains with Seth, followed by the Spooky Family interview. Then you will hear Believe It or Not with Justin and Goose, and then we'll come back to close everything out and tell you what we're going to be doing next week in episode 54.
Welcome to the Mysterious Appalachian Mountains with Seth and Earl, and we have a special guest who is a legend, Mr. Haunted. How are you doing today, sir?
A legend. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Absolutely, man. And I know you got a Bigfoot story for us tonight here on the Mysterious Appalachian Mountains.
I was scouring the internet for stories, and I think I got a good one for you. This one's called Bigfoot Bolted Down My Driveway, and this comes out of Bee Springs, Kentucky. The witness's name is Eric, and this happened in the summer of 1974 around noon. Shall I begin?
Yes, sir.
All right. It was a warm summer's day around July or August, and I was inside my house in the living room watching TV. I just happened to get up and notice some movement out the front living room window, which was right beside me. I saw this huge unknown creature come running from the big woods across the road from my house, which is in the Noland Lake area, and run across the road and down our driveway, headed towards the back of our house. My dad had his car parked in the driveway, and as the creature passed the car, I noticed the top of the car struck the creature at about its lower waistline. So that's how big this thing was. As it went out of view of the window and around the corner of the house, I immediately ran out the front door and to the corner of the house it had ran around. So he said, "Don't ask me why, I just did. I watched the creature from behind as it entered the cornfield behind our house, and it continued to run towards the thick wood behind our property. It was 7 feet tall or a little taller, and my best guess at weight would be 375 to 400 pounds. It had a very stocky build and completely covered with long reddish brown hair that was 4 to 6 inches long. I remember the hair flowing in the wind as this creature ran. The only parts of its body that had no hair were the palms of its hands and the bottom of his feet and his facial area. I noticed his eyes were large and dark. Its nose was flat, but the nostrils were downward facing and not completely flat like a gorilla's would be. It had a big wide mouth, which was closed, so I couldn't see any teeth. I didn't smell anything or odor when I got outside and watched the creature run away. I also noticed it was extremely quiet as it ran, and the only noise it made was as it entered the cornfield as it crashed its way through the corn stalks, making a big path as it barged through. We lived in the country, and we had an old TV with rabbit ear antennas on top, and we only got 2 or 3 channels. So what I'm saying is I didn't know what a Bigfoot was. So I had no idea what this thing was that I've seen. So years later, when I saw Bigfoot on TV, I realized I might have saw a Bigfoot. And that's the story called The Bigfoot Bolted Down My Driveway. Now, I also want to remind you that this happened in 1974, and the guy presently is 53. So he was only 6 or 7 years old when this happened.
And what's your opinion on that story, Earl?
Well, if what I would wonder about it is, well, for one thing, you said he was like 6 years old. For one thing. Second thing, his description had quite a bit of detail, and a lot of detail, and then it was supposedly running away from him, and he gave a description of its face and everything. That would be kind of what I would wonder about. It's
sorry,
a lot of detail for something that was moving, and it fits the description perfectly, actually, almost. But it's I would just wonder about that.
I liked his detail. I just thought, like, to notice that there was no hair on his palms or the bottom of his feet. That was
right.
To notice that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a lot of detail, and to notice that and it moving and everything. And this is a 6-year-old, which usually when you're getting someone that age, they're not going to make something up. But I would wonder, when was the story? How old was he when he told the story?
Well, he claims, one of my questions was, like, did you tell your parents, like, as soon as they got home or when you saw them, about this incident? And what did they say? But there's nothing about that. But I also think he said it was so impactful on him that's how he remembered everything. But still, it's so much detail.
Right.
And then he said, like you said, at the time he didn't know what a Bigfoot was, and it was till years later when he saw it on TV. And then he just recently, I think in 2017, was searching Bigfoot, Kentucky, to try to find, see if there were similar stories. And then he reported it. So, and then the person that interviewed him was Don Meal, and he said he found him buddies. Is he? He said he found him. He said he found him to be very intelligent, well spoken. He seemed like he didn't seem like he was making up a story, but there are a lot of questions, aren't there?
Right.
Yeah. Don Neal has seen everything when it comes to Bigfoot. He's seen every story. He's heard and seen everything that you can see in a Bigfoot report and stuff, man. So if Don finds him credible, then he's definitely credible.
Yeah. I'm glad I wrote the guy's name down, because that probably helped the story a little bit.
Absolutely, man. We want to thank Mr. Haunted for reading the story. We want to thank Earl for doing this every week. And this has been the Mysterious Appalachian Mountains here on Here To Chew Bubblegum. We want to thank Here To Chew Bubblegum for having us. Y'all have a good night, and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen of Here To Chew Bubblegum, welcome in. We have a very special interview with the Spooky family. We have them in the secret location under the shopping mall near the city that moves mountains in the heart of Appalachia.
You didn't tell me it was directly under a hot topic.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Well, hey. The secret's out of the bag, and that was Elliot Spooky. And we also had the very lovely Gertie Spooky.
Hello.
And Beagle Spooky. I don't know. The very muscular Beagle Spooky.
The very Sasquatch-like
Beagle Spooky. Beagle?
Say something.
All my jokes are visual, and
They don't translate that well over an interview.
no, they don't.
We have this problem on the podcast. He'll start doing stuff. I'll be like, it's a radio.
But he'll start to describe it.
Okay.
I'll try to.
You know, it's something I love about you guys, and me and Justin started saying it on Believe It or Not. You know, we'll get it in post.
Fix it in post.
And we actually did. I think it was episode 3, Believe It or Not. We did like 3 takes, and I'm like,
yeah, you left it in.
yeah.
I love that.
And
That's great.
Justin's like, no, just leave it in. I'm like, okay, well, just leave it in then. So
That's really good.
But
Good in post.
how are things going over at the Spooky Family Podcast?
It's going great. We're experiencing some pretty good growth. We got more listeners now than we didn't set out to try to make this into a job. We all have full-time jobs, and but we're doing pretty good. Pretty good.
Last
We enjoy it, so.
2 weeks, I would say, maybe 3.
Well, probably last month. Yeah, we've had
just a huge increase in. I'm gonna say quadruple.
about.
I'm going to put that success on the tournament. I'm thinking a lot of people enjoy that. People like to come and take their opinions and like to hear other people's opinions about when one thing is better than the other.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, Chris Sloan with the Mountain Mysteries podcast was sitting in this studio about a month ago, and off air, he told me and him were talking, and he said, believe it, Rick Dees gave him this piece of advice. People love to eavesdrop on people's conversations, and a podcast is kind of like you're eavesdropping on somebody's conversation. And if you've got a really good conversation going, you're going to get you're going to get more listeners involved. You're going to get them to listen. One of the hardest things I've found is getting people to leave voice messages that are worthy to play on the radio.
Yeah.
Or, and now we've got some absolute crazy ones here, and I wish that I'd have kept them, but I don't,
I've noticed more people are apt to email than voicemail, but even
I would be more apt to do that because
Yeah.
I don't like my own voice.
Well, I mean, and that's detrimental in this business. But a lot of people don't like our voices. Trust me. But yeah, I agree 110%. It's hard to get people to get involved.
Yes.
If that makes sense. But once they do, they stay involved. That's why we
Yes.
all have regular writers. You've got Dixon. We've got Tanya,
Yes.
as a group, she writes to everybody.
Yes, she does. And she wrote about a month, well, not a month ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, and maybe 3 weeks ago. I've just not had time to sit down and message her back.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give her just 1 or 2 lines. I want to sit down and, because she gave me several paragraphs.
Yeah.
And I want to devote enough time to her to sit down and respond. And I will, Tanya, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry I've not responded yet, but I will very soon.
We've got a couple of people who write in. There's one guy. He has
Brian?
he has a name very similar to a serial killer, and we always joke that he was really the serial killer who was running, and then that's become kind of a running back and forth joke. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But once we get those people who will talk to us and establish a relationship with us, that's when it starts getting good. I love listening to Dixon 09 emails when they come into
Yeah.
Here to Chew Bubblegum. Or Ballin Cox is the funniest stuff in the world.
Yes, yes, he is.
That is great. And he wrote us. We've not read it on air because we don't really do a lot of read
Right.
emails on air.
Right.
We every time somebody writes us, we always get in contact with them, but we don't
Right.
always read it on air unless they specifically say,
Can you read this on
yeah,
air?
can you read this on air? Because most of the time we deal with ghost stories, and sometimes people want to keep that private. But yeah, that's the thing, is that we really want to make sure that we establish a relationship, and it's hard. It's hard to do it on voicemail too, because you don't have that immediate feedback.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Email, you can write me, and usually it's maybe 2 hours we've already wrote somebody back. You know what I'm saying? So I get that. I understand.
Gertie, what's the most fun that you've had doing this podcast?
Probably our ghost hunt.
That
that
Yeah.
we've done. Yeah, that
Can
we
you-
did kind of all together. I guess
Yeah.
we could discuss. Can we discuss it some?
Yeah.
Is that
Okay.
I'm looking daily. Please, is that okay?
Yes. So
He keeps me on track because I
We
forget
have
what
to,
we're doing when we
run
were doing it. But
everything
yeah,
by
but I think I just had the most fun doing that. I've always seen the building that we went to. I'd always seen it in the background. Never knew what was inside of it. Found that we had like a familial tie to the place, Beagle and I, which was cool. And then had some strange stuff happen while we've been there.
now, what was the strange thing that you had happen while you were there? Can you share that with us?
that was actually on our return trip to finish up some getting some audio files, some EVPs that we had captured on our previous hunt. As we were recording, I believe it is on the noise that started it all.
Yeah.
I believe it was so loud it was caught on all four
Mike's.
mics.
Really?
It
Yeah.
come from upstairs. No one was up there. And everyone stops and says, "Wow, man, that's a loud noise." And from there, me and Gertie wanted to go investigate a little bit more, so they allowed us to go through there. And we were standing looking into a particular room that I actually caught a video of an orb in. Directly in front of me, I watched an orb appear and shoot from the location that it appeared from left and disappear. As I walked more into that room, me and Gertie then began to see shadows walk as if they were in front of us, but casting a shadow onto the hearth behind them. But this was also in complete darkness, so it's very strange to say shadow.
Right.
I've never experienced anything like it. But
A darker shape than the other dark shapes in the room that seem to be moving.
These people are delusional. Nothing happened.
Well, you know,
Elliot actually had something as well. So I mean, he can't.
what did you have happen, Elliot?
It was a weird thing. It was a shadow that moved from one end to the other, and a door opened in front of me. But you can ask these two. As soon as we got to the car, I was trying to think logically what made this happen, and they both called me an idiot. They were like, "There's no way, you know better." And the more I think about it, the more they're right. I mean, it is hard to see that stuff in person. Really, it makes you think. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we can talk about it. We can talk about people's stories all the time, and you know, but to have it happen to you is a totally different thing. And it did freak me out a little bit, but I'm coming to terms with it. So,
You know, and I was there with you guys the first time you were there, and you know, first thank you for the invite. But I even told you beforehand, you know, you're probably not going to capture anything when I'm here. Just, I mean, and it's not like I'm bad. Well, I guess you could say I'm bad luck. But people have told me before that my spirituality is so strong, and these are people that do ghost hunts and allegedly can sense and see auras and all that stuff. And they just said, look, you know, you're so set, and I take this as a compliment now, you know, but you're so set in your ways and your spirituality is so strong. We're not going to get anything with you here. You know, you can leave. And I mean, I actually had somebody tell me that you can leave. And then I left a place and they started getting stuff, all kinds of stuff.
now see, I'm very firm in what I believe.
Right.
But this stuff, you know, and for a long time, I always felt bad because I was interested in it, because there's that stigma to it.
Right. But you shouldn't feel bad for being
Right.
interested in it.
Right. But, and it is funny you mentioned that, because we did start, you know, the people who were there that night did start getting stuff after you left. So it is funny that you mentioned that. But,
and that goes along with what this person told me years ago,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and just lets me know what I told you guys, that maybe they were right, you know.
see, I think that, I don't know. It's one of those things where, and that makes me wonder, why is that stuff so choosy? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, if it's there, why isn't it there all the time?
Well, this person also, you know, and this was years ago. I mean, this was like in 2007, 2008, somebody told me this. And they told me after, they said that I had a really, really strong connection with guardian or whatever that was really protective of me, and that was really, that I felt them before, and they had described experiences that I'd felt my whole life and never really had answers for.
Right.
But they said that my guardian, was really protective of me and shielded me from a lot of that stuff. So,
Right. I'm like
then again, that could have been why, you didn't get anything till after I left. So
I'm like our buddy Eli.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open-minded, but I'm not so open-minded that my brain falls out.
Right.
That kind of deal.
Me too.
I will listen and observe and participate, but I don't believe everything. It's kind of like the alien thing that we
Right.
talk about all the
Right.
time. Like, there are people who hardcore believe that UFOs are just aliens and just whatever, and I get that. I understand why, and I get it. I'm of the belief that, it's probably government, craft that they're experimenting with, and they just use the alien myth to keep people away.
But that brings you back, though. Where did they get that technology?
But exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I'm open-minded. I'm just not, I don't wholeheartedly believe everything right off the bat. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, I
Yes.
have to experience something. I have to see it myself. I have to research stuff. And I think we're all like that. Like everybody in this room. We don't wholeheartedly go in and blindly believe something. And I think that when you do the things we do, that's an important thing to have.
Yes.
So.
Yep, I talked about it a little bit at the May House. Actually, it was you had to find that perfect medium kind of between
Microphone.
being a skeptic and being.
We have to do this at our show too. Yeah.
So I mean, once not so the point where you're just. It's like how I said for myself. I feel like I'm a skeptic until. I'm a skeptic, but I also wholeheartedly want something to happen so bad
Yeah.
that I try not to make it
But when it does,
kind of manifest things for me.
yeah. But when it does, you don't automatically say
But
that's
I
it.
tried to,
yeah.
I tried to go and I tried to rationalize what this possibly could be. Let's like when I was just describing about on our return trip, I seen an orb.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to recreate it. I tried to make sure that it was not some sort of like outside source of light, maybe coming from Prestonsburg or city. But I just could not. I could not recreate it. I stood there for a very long time, but probably about another 30 minutes, and it never happened again.
Yeah. So when you rule out everything it could be, you're only left with what it might be, and that's when it gets,
And that's when it kind of dawns on you, and you're just like, oh, I've just seen something special.
Right. And I've always, even before I started doing this show, I always thought something was up with Roswell. And, I'll say from the get-go, the reason I think that is because I think the first story that they put out was true, because they had never had a scenario. What happens in this situation?
Yeah.
And
I think I've said it before on Here to Chew Bubblegum.
Yeah.
Roswell's really the one case that I just can't, if you go back and look, they put out 3 different stories
Yes, they did.
in less than 24 hours.
Yes.
And to me, that says something is being covered up. Now, whether or not that's Little Green Man or, Big Tall Gray Man, or maybe it's just, oops, we lost an experimental aircraft and this is what who knows, but there is something to it. There's something there.
But, and I've talked about this on the show, and I want your opinion on this, Gertie. When you look at what happened after Roswell with technology, the way it's rapidly advanced, I think that something not from this planet crashed there.
Oh, I think so for sure.
Because, we didn't have the transistor before then. We didn't have, fiber optic cable.
Wireless.
The ballistics vest came out of that. There was just so much technology that nobody had ever thought of. And you look at just 20 years before, we were like way, way, way behind, the start of the industrial age. And then it's like, boom, it just shot up really quick at a rapid growth. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think there was something to that. I think that we took whatever landed and we reverse engineered what we could understand, and it's taken a while. And I think maybe, I don't know, I assume that we have other craft now that we've collected from one means or another.
Yes.
If we've seized it or not, I guess, from private individuals. But I mean, us as in the U.S. government, not the spooky family. But
No, we've got it.
but there's we've got
Found the garage.
we've got the outbuilding and we've got everything in there.
Yep.
But yeah, I believe Bob Lazar. I think that there is something very much to that, and I think he did work on that. And I think there are more people. And I think there are people that will never know what happened to them because of what happened to them at those sites.
Bob Lazar is a very credible source. He didn't
Same
look.
here.
He didn't look for money out of that.
No, he did
He
not.
didn't want fame out of that.
No.
But yet his life was miserable after what he released.
Yes, it was.
So, and that's one thing I look for in these cases is, are people setting out to make money from it? And if they are, I'm done with it, and but then you've got people like Lazar, you've got people like Betty and Barney Hill, it ruined their lives.
Yes,
it didn't help them. It didn't financially set them in stone or anything. It just, why would you subject yourself to that much ridicule, and with no monetary gain from it if this was not real?
And then you've got people like Travis Walton.
That's a hard one, ain't it? I've met him. I've talked to him.
I have never met him.
Scarefest. We met him at Scarefest a couple of years ago.
Did he seem like? I mean, was he?
He seemed like a really good dude.
Did he talk any about his?
No, that's one of the things we didn't press really.
Right.
We just talked to him for a second or two. But what do you do in that case? I mean, that is a rough one because the people around him say no, but then they switch their story so much and.
But, then you look back, and I don't know how many years ago it's been, but they had the game show where they put you in a lie detector.
Yeah.
And he failed miserably.
Yeah.
Miserably he failed. Now, and I do understand it's so many years after the alleged incident. But if something like that happens to you, you're going to tell the same story over and over and over and over.
You're not going to deviate from it if it happened.
No, you're not.
Which I have read. I've read theories that people say the reason that credible people at first end up being non-credible later is because people lose interest in their story. We live in a story where there's a 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
After a while, that goes away. The Tic Tac UFOs and all that stuff. It was only relevant for about a week, if even a week. And some of these people feel that I got to get my story out, and I got to make it more fanciful for more people to believe it. And then they get caught up in it. And once you get caught up, the rest of your story, even if it was real, doesn't matter. I've heard that before. But to me, you're right. You're absolutely right. If it happens and you're telling that story, you're not going to change it as you go along.
And even if you had told a lie that many times over the years, you would convince yourself it's true.
Yes.
You should be able to pass a lie detector test.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
It's just I'm on the fence with him. But
it's such a compelling story.
Oh, it's a very compelling story. Yeah. If I had to pick, I would pick that his was false. If somebody says, "Hey, you got to pick," I'd be like, "It's false."
Yeah. Well, Rendlesham. Have you ever heard of the Rendlesham Forest case? There you have actual military people who took notes as it was happening and have copies of it. But then their stories are completely different. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was a different experience for 3 different people that was there. Yeah. But they all
by design of the phenomenon?
Or is it by design of the phenomenon itself? Yes. But even with them, they all 3 stuck to their stories, their individual stories. They didn't change it to try to make it seem, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I get what you're saying, and I agree 110%.
Well, let me ask you a question. Antarctica. Uh-huh. What's your thoughts on Antarctica?
It's a strange deal. Again, why aren't we there? What did Admiral Byrd find?
Well, I mean,
sent him back.
You can even go back to YouTube and watch some of the black and white interviews with him, and he's talking about past the ice wall. Yeah, is this land that is just like our land, you know, with trees and
this
warm weather. And
I mean, this is the man that was in charge of our Navy for like the longest time. So I want to believe him because I'm scared of what we were doing if I didn't.
I do believe him because I think it was his son that took his diary after he died, and he was on a way to a symposium to speak, and he was going to read first time ever publicly out of his dad's diary. He didn't make it to that speaking engagement, and his body was found so many days later, and the diary has never been recovered.
Right, and to me, that's another big proof that something is right.
Something is there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree 110%.
That does that all the
Shed
time.
light on the situation. Yeah. But, you know, and then there's the people make the argument like how much of this stuff is true. You can find it on the internet. Like you can go and you can Google Admiral Byrd and it pops up. Well, if the government really didn't want that out there, or if people didn't really want that out there, why can everybody access it? Okay.
Well, that's why the internet's so dangerous.
Exactly. And to me, also, it really.
And that's why we keep, you know, putting internet regulation stuff into bills in the back of 700-page,
bills and
bills that we're trying to pay.
Also, there's the whole idea of hiding stuff in plain sight. I go back to the Men in Black. One of my favorite topics ever is the Men in Black. And there's an episode of the X-Files. And you've watched the X-Files. I think everybody's watched the X-Files in here. But the Men in Black are in it. And when they show up to silence this witness, one of them looks like Jesse Ventura and the other one looks like Alex Trebek. And I was thinking, man, that's an odd choice of actors to play the Men in Black. Well, like in the next scene, the guy they visit actually says, it was Jesse Ventura and Alex Trebek. And you know, they're trying to, like, the whole point of that show, of them doing that, was they try to make something sound so unbelievable that even if you tell the truth, nobody's going to believe you. And, you know, like, that's the same thing with all this information on the internet. I'd say there are pretty credible pieces here and there on the internet, but then they're so ingrained in this other wild, fantastical stuff. If you read it, and then you read that, you're not going to believe it because it's mixed together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, it makes perfect sense.
And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like maybe we're helping that by doing these podcasts, and I don't know which side we're on. You know, sometimes I wonder if, would we be labeled misinformation, or would we be labeled as people trying to get information out? Or is it a combination of both, and we don't know it? You know,
if we lived back in the 50s.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this stuff out in the open like we do.
Yeah.
We would be, there's no doubt in my mind, you would have government agents that would follow us, that would infiltrate the group and so forth.
Yeah. And it may be happening. We don't know.
We would lose our jobs.
You know,
maybe that's why Justin Perkins showed up. Maybe he's a G-man. We don't know.
Well, he does work for the government.
He does. So, I'm telling you.
You know.
And he's very smart.
Yes, he is.
Don't watch yourself around that guy.
You can go back, though, to some of the encyclopedias. I think they're from 1952 was the last year that mentioned anything about Antarctica having trees and growth and the warm weather. After 52, they totally changed them. And they changed it basically to just it was an ice. Yeah. It was all ice and
uninhabitable and
Yes.
Okay.
And then you can look at
what
maps.
happened in 52 to what was the catalyst?
That
was when Byrd and that whole what was the name of that? The high jump. Operation High Jump.
Operation High Jump.
Yeah.
And then like in 53 you had the that's where it's like you said, snow covered, nobody could live there. And then was it 56 or 58 that it was off limits to everybody? I think it was 56.
Oh, even if you could get there, I guess, from South America, you cannot enter.
No, it was off limits.
Okay.
So
it's crazy. And it goes back to a lot of the old stories of what happened after World War II. Where did those great old bad guys, the Nazis, where did they show up at? And like, it's a story that has everything And it's one of those.
They went to Argentina and then they went,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
that the reason they
the
went to
theory is
Argentina?
that the rat
Okay.
lines led them to South America,
yeah.
and then South America led them to
Antarctica. You know,
I don't know.
and there's, I mean, I hope that we know the truth in my lifetime. You know, I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I hope we know the truth in my lifetime.
I would like to know, just if they could just settle one thing. I saw this week they are holding back the JFK records again.
Yeah.
Like, why?
What was the reason again? I read it, but it was an odd.
Something about
It's an
security.
odd phrase.
Some,
Yeah. I was like, oh, all right.
I'm not exactly sure
Now, see,
how they phrased it.
but it makes you wonder after all these years, why are they still closing those records?
Yeah. What are they trying to save? What are they trying to keep safe?
Beagle, what do you think they're trying to close those records or keep them hidden?
It's like how a topic that comes up a lot here on Here to Chew Bubblegum, but disclosure. I mean, you can't give everything out. I mean, there's something there that is either they just can't, or it'll possibly change everything. You know, like it's just like does every president have that book that they have all the secrets in?
The Book of Secrets.
Yeah, that's what everybody. There's a theory.
Well, you
I
know,
guess, that they
and
pass something
there's
like
some
that down.
people that claim, and you can find documentation of this, that, you know, before JFK, that was tragically killed in November. By February, he had demanded to know the truth about UFOs, unidentified. You know, he had demanded to know all of it.
And then the Federal Reserve, all that stuff.
And some people say that, you know,
That was the reason.
that was the reason.
He planned to shut down the CIA. I mean, JFK painted a lot of targets
Yes, he did.
on himself, and just it's crazy.
It's it's scary. I mean, information like that. I mean, it's
Where do you go? I mean, like, if we find out the truth, what does that do to, or what we think might be the truth? What does that do to the governments? Like, do they all of a sudden you find out that there's people who can fly through space and do crazy stuff? Does that take away power from the government? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, you know, you're going to have some people that total panic. I mean,
Absolutely.
and that was based that when we can thank Orson Welles for that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I think if if Orson Welles had never played that radio show,
Mm-hmm.
we might would know more right now,
Well,
because people panicked because they thought that was real.
it happened again. Like later on, and like we keep saying, well, that wouldn't happen today. Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
it would.
Yeah.
Like absolutely it would. I remember on September 11th, like, and this is, I'm not trying to make it fantastical or anything like that. It was just, we heard so many stories without proof, like, they're going to blow the bridges or,
Right.
like this. I was living in a small town in eastern Kentucky. There was I was at college. There was one gas station, like within, 5 miles of it. The line of traffic was backed up on that day past like where the college ended, because there was a rumor that gas prices were going to shoot up to $4 a gallon,
And people were going to load up.
and people were loading up. And this is all purely made up in our mind speculation that led to this. You know what I'm saying? Like, what happens if we found out for sure that was going to happen?
Well, and I don't know where this order came from, and you know how I know, but about 5 days after September 11th, police activity was stepped up at a particular power station that was not far from where
Yeah.
you went to school.
Yeah.
And there was a particular lake that had a dam.
yeah.
People were, patrols and plane units that appeared to be normal people were stationed there.
Yes.
And, I do know that went on for about a month before, any information was like,
And again,
because that was all possible.
was it credible threats or was it pure speculation?
Well, when the state was willing to pay this overtime. There had to be some credibility.
There was if there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, I get that.
So
So I mean,
there had to be something there to make them think that.
And again, you never know. So was that real? And then these rumors about gas prices going up used to keep people's minds off the stuff that's going on.
Well, see,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was it a diversionary tactic?
I had never heard the gas price one.
Oh Lord, yeah. Listen, I was broke. I had $20 to my name. I had just drove back to that place from my home, and I knew that I needed to get gas to go home. So I was in line that day.
How long did you have to wait?
3 hours. 3 hours. And I'll tell you off air where I was at.
Okay.
Where I ended up getting in line at. But it was very real, and it was a scary thing at the time, especially the college kids, because
right.
$4 of gasoline. Like we're talking back in 2001 when it was like 89 cents,
right.
or whatever. You could get home on $5, but it was a crazy time, and it's just I wonder if we see that today on a much larger scale. Are we allowed? I don't want to use the word allowed, but are we allowed? Allegedly. Are we allowed to? I don't think they got the joke and they thought I was being serious, but are we allowed to think the way we think and told that it might be true just to keep our minds off of what we're not supposed to be thinking of? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I probably said that really weird.
Well, I kind of know what you mean there.
Yeah.
Fear is a powerful motivator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
One of my favorite comics is V for Vendetta.
Yeah, it's a good comic.
And the main story in that is that the government comes up with a plague, almost kind of like...
Okay, we are not in any way saying that this has anything to do with current day events. We're just telling you the theory behind this comic.
I'm just telling you exactly what is in this comic. The government synthesizes a virus. They then distribute said virus to the public. There's a frenzy. The government says, basically, listen, don't worry, come back, faith in the government, faith in us. And they then will produce through certain party members, through their pharmaceuticals, the cure. Mm-hmm. Everyone comes back in. Now you're completely with the government. And they got rid of democracy during that, and they came out with a chancellor, basically.
And this was a movie?
This was a comic book written in the 1980s, and it was later made into a movie. But we are in no way saying that is what is happening today. No. We just want to make that clear.
No, Alan Moore is a prophet.
And it was...
He might have been, yeah.
And it was, what, V for Vendetta?
V for Vendetta, okay. Yeah. Written by Alan Moore.
I have heard of that movie and comic book. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah.
And again, we are in no way saying please.
But, if you want to see some of those similarities, the eeriness of it, I'll leave that up to different interpretation.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you nothing to do with today's event.
But, yet again, back to the main subject. Fear is a powerful motivator.
Absolutely.
You can do the magic trick, basically, of fear. This is the main problem, but look at this hand.
All right. Well, I have a question for all three of you. Nostradamus, zombie apocalypse prediction. Gertie, we'll start with you.
I'm trying to remember that particular one. Refresh me on what year and he was supposed to say. You know what I mean?
It's that's the one I thought of. It is supposed to be this year.
Oh God!
And it was talking about I don't even remember. I mean, I've read it on the show a couple of times, but I don't remember what quatrain it was.
I can't remember.
Well, Beagle, I'll start with you then while I look that up for Gertie.
Just like my overall thoughts about.
Yeah.
I truly believe whatever we want to say about our government, I think they would handle a zombie apocalypse.
So you think it's real? You think it's real and that they would just take care of it?
I'm saying that they would look at it the numbers way.
Yeah.
Say, like, if the outbreak happened and it was first, patient 0 was in said city, that a huge quarantine would go on, and then they would just probably nuke it.
Quarantine, you say?
Yeah.
Now, this is my theory.
Are you being totally serious? You really think the government would protect us in a zombie
No,
apocalypse?
I'm not saying to protect us. I mean, they would handle it
Okay.
if they truly
He's a
did
big
not.
believer.
Extreme prejudice is that what
He's a
you're
big
They
believer
would
in
handle
military
it.
power. My theories on, or my opinion on Nostradamus is a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
I can write a bunch of stuff, and eventually, especially if I'm not specific about it, I'm going to get something right in the future. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
And I just don't know. I've never been a big fan of Nostradamus. I don't really believe in all of that. I've seen his stuff, especially the stuff they say, was about 9/11, the two brothers and the city one or fall. But if he's so good, let me know ahead of time. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't wait until it's over with and then I have to go back and figure out how it worked.
And on the other hand, The Simpsons probably got more right than.
Yeah, I'd look towards The Simpsons more than
So,
Nostradamus.
Gertie, I just showed you what his quatrain was after you read that. What do you think? Have you read that before?
No, I haven't. Which
Okay.
I need to start reading more things if I can help it. But that's not school related. It seems to me. I mean, like, did the minds, was somebody dyslexic? Like, did they
It's possible.
instead of 2012, it's 2021?
It could be, and there's a lot of people that claim that's the reason there's so many Mandela effect stuff yet, is that we did transition through a way and we didn't realize it, But no, we're not in a computer program,
Allegedly.
No, it's just
Oh, you think we're in the Matrix?
no. It's
Is that what you're thinking?
It's all a program, man.
what's the correct terminology for it? I can't think of it right now. We've talked about it on the show before. Eli's talked about it. Justin's talked about it.
Simulation theory?
Yeah. The simulation theory. I don't think that's real.
It's a fourth dimensional being actually operating. Orchestrating all of this right now.
Well, I mean, the simulation theory, I don't believe it's real either. But we have games now that people here have created, and especially with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
What is going on there? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe it either, but it's a weird thing to think about sometimes. And I think, I see all these mathematicians and all these people that are saying it's more and more, it could be true. What do they know that I don't know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I mean, I think if we were in a simulation we would know it.
There would be glitches.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, deja vu.
Well,
But that's not necessarily a glitch. That's,
Could be a glitch.
Allegedly.
could be.
look, you'd look at that wall and then all of a sudden, there would be like Minecraft stuff appear that would be, unpixelated.
I'm just saying,
and-
maybe certain other phenomena like that is the glitch. Like, a UFO. That's the stage light. It's Truman Show. Oh wait, wrong weather effects. Turn it off, turn it back on. That's why sometimes it's like, rain stops. Cloud, no clouds.
Yeah. It's
Super cold, no, it's warm.
well, then,
Kentucky is the biggest simulation ever.
His first day on the job.
Well, then-
keeping us at a very level.
yeah.
He's
If
over
we
there
were
hitting everything.
in the simulation theory, how would you explain the awful anime stuff?
Yeah, there you go.
How
I
would I
agree.
explain that? That's the reason why I'm here. They put me here for that. And that's why that segment died.
It lasted twice, I think, maybe.
Barely twice.
-1.
0.0.
And it's gone. It's gone now.
I just remembered that was a horrible day.
So, if you had to pick who you would believe more, Nostradamus or Edgar Casey, who would it be?
Oh, Edgar Casey for sure.
I gotta go.
Kentucky boy. Gotta go with Casey.
You all gave him a pretty hard time,
We didn't give him a hard time.
His dad's horse gave him his powers.
His dad's horse is the main villain of that story, not us. I love Casey though. The thing I love about him is he hated the fact that all happened. Like, he did not want to be known as the sleeping prophet.
Right.
He didn't want to be known as a prophet at all.
No,
he thought it was horrible.
He didn't even charge anybody for readings. I mean, they could give donations at their own free will, but if you didn't, that was fine. He didn't take a dime. You know?
And it went so against his religious belief.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just like, he thought it was a work of, demons, and he just didn't believe any of it.
I also like the story that he actually let a doctor check him out. If you remember, we read that into that, but only one time.
Yeah,
for him because he found out that he was kind of actually was it almost like judging, making fun of him.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah,
he was like, well, I'm just not going to come back here. You know?
Yeah,
but then when he ended up, was that the one where somebody was over? I can't remember. It was New York, and he was supposed to tell what was wrong with them, and then they were late, and he was like, "Well, it's not. They're not. My voices haven't started yet."
I can't remember. I know what you're talking
saying
about.
that he's running late, and they didn't know that person was running late, and then he finally got to where he was supposed to be, and then he was like, and told it.
Yeah, and it's something like that. I can't remember what it is.
And I think he was accurate, but he said he would never come back. He would never come back to the doctor to be evaluated because
Casey was, he's also from that Hopkinsville area where all those little green men showed up at that time.
Yes.
I don't know. Casey's just that's a weird story. If you've never read about Edgar Casey, I suggest you read it because it's a neat story.
Or if you want to go way back for that Elliot's article.
There you go.
Way back.
Way back.
Now, some of his predictions too, I mean, have came true, at this point, 20 some years ago about finding the secret room under the left paw of the Sphinx. And they did find that with ground penetrating radar and stuff like that. And they say now there's a whole nother section, deep buried. And, we could talk about that for hours. We're not going to, but because
his medical stuff is what blows me away.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff. But he was right. He believed too that if he ever got one wrong, that then all of it was wrong. That was his thing. It was like you had to get it 100% right, or it just wasn't true.
Are you aware of any that he did get wrong?
Yeah, I think there's some. I can't tell you right off because I obviously I didn't do my research before I come in here. But there was a couple that people say were wrong. I don't know. I can't tell you right off the bat, but he had a lot of theories about Atlantis and where Atlantis would be located, and some of those I think ended up not being true. But I can't for sure say. So Edgar Casey Foundation, if you're out there listening, I didn't mean to besmirch our boy Edgar. I just don't know. I can't remember right off.
So, what do you have planned to do in the podcast in the new year? Are you going to be doing anything different? You going to be doing anything that you like right now that's going really good? You going to keep doing it or make it bigger? Or
I know that we are going to probably get more structured.
That's a big thing.
We have heard you, listeners, the Spooky Family Podcast.
We're going to try to shorten down the episodes and structure them just a little bit better. We're entering a very busy time in our life right now. Gertie actually has another job, so our ability to record is going to be very tested. But we're going to still try to get at least one episode out a week. We're going to try to make them shorter. We're going to try to make them more structured and to the point. We're going to try to
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry about that. Once we get started talking, though, we go way different directions sometimes. And some people love that. Some of our best stuff is when they're like, we just love it when you all just freestyle and go into, go off on tangents. And we do too. I mean, that's just the way we are. We'll start a conversation in real life.
And it just flows that way.
And it just flows, yeah. And eventually, 3 hours later, we're like, what were we talking about? We can't remember where we started. But we also understand that for the podcast, that might be a little bit...
I'm guessing we're going to try to maybe go more back towards saving our first a couple episodes.
Yeah, where we have a topic and
we
we're
go
going
more in
to
depth into
yeah.
it. We have 2 episodes. You know.
Yeah, we've done that before. I mean, we always have a topic, and for a while there, we were doing interviews. And
Right.
I really like the interviews part, but we talked about maybe doing interviews as a separate show, not a separate show, but like released on a separate day, not as the main podcast.
Right. Well, have you thought about maybe putting part of the interview in the podcast and then doing like an uncut, unedited thing?
Yeah,
and just sticking it up.
We talked about maybe doing a Patreon.
Yeah.
Getting a Patreon going.
Giving them some sort of extra or more content.
Yeah, but with the Patreon, like we talked about, maybe branching out and doing different shows, like Beagle actually doing an anime show, Gertie doing one about Stephen King, and then I got a buddy that really wants to do a wrestling show too, and like maybe using that as our extra content where we would each do a show a month.
Let's see, there you go.
And throw that out there. We talked about that, and kind of like what you all are doing with Believe It or Not,
right?
And but it's just, again, we go back to the whole time, because all 3 of us have real life jobs that have really big responsibilities.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we record as much as we can, and we're hoping that the structure and short shows will give us time to do that. So
right.
That's what we're looking at. But as far as topics go, we really want to do one about Project Blue Book. We had a listener write in and ask us to do that. We really want to do one about
Tulpas.
Tulpas. Yeah, we'd mentioned tulpas.
What is that, like a Mexican food?
Yeah.
$9.99.
It's appetizers. Yeah.
But we
That's
also
actually a they did a study over it. I'm not exactly sure what the study was called. The
Toplas study.
What it was they got together and a group of people made up an imaginary person.
Okay.
And all of them
Poltergeist
had
situation.
characteristics and everything like that. And the more that they believe, they were told to truly believe that person was real. And the more they did that, the more energy they gave it and fed it, it actually became a real entity.
like a ghost.
Really?
Yeah.
And they
supposedly.
that's what they believe Slender Man is.
Is it
It
Philip?
started out as a
Philip
creepypasta.
experiment?
The Philip experiment. Yeah.
The Philip experiment. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I think it was called the Philip experiment.
I believe so. What did you-
Allegedly.
Thank God for
Allegedly.
Goose.
But yeah, Slender Man is supposedly supposed to be
Yeah.
a tulpa. After so much of people putting true belief into it, this thing's real, this thing's real, this thing's real, it has become real through us believing it is.
There's a big theory that that's the Men in Black stuff too. Is that Men in Black aren't real, but we've created. You know, they started with the stories of one man, and
Right.
then it moved out, and now it's gained prominence, and it's become real.
If I had to guess and vote the Men in Black, I would say probably 70% chance that they do exist.
Yeah, in some form.
You know, do I think that they're ultra government? You know, I mean, I don't know, but I do think that they do exist, and they have clearance and can get into places that other people can't.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the other topics, weird, like the 27 Club in music. We were going to talk about that for a little bit.
The Green Children.
The Green Children of Wool Pit. We were going to talk about that. Gertie, what was some other stuff?
I'm trying to remember. People had asked us for like specifics that they wanted us to go back and do missing 411 stuff.
Yeah, do
again.
more
Back,
missing 411 stuff.
Dreams.
Dreams.
Yeah.
Oh,
dreams.
and my favorite one, we are going to do a Christmas special with Krampus and, all that stuff. You know, the most famous ghost story of all time is Scrooge. You know, like basically, like so that's the thing that a lot of people don't know is that one of the biggest traditions,
Called
especially in
Christmas Carol.
Europe and Christmas Carol, I'm sorry, in Europe and places is telling ghost stories, at Christmas. That's a big thing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. But we've got some topics. We've got some stuff scheduled. Gertie keeps a list that, of when and where everything's supposed to be.
we have went off.
We went off
the
that list
list,
lately, but we have, and but that's like we weren't expecting to get the interview with Tanya. So once we got the Tawny Darenberger interview,
Yes.
like we went
That
off
was
list for that.
freestyle from there.
Yeah. And then right after that, we got an interview with Chris Sloan. Or not Chris. Yeah, Chris Sloan, Mountain Mysteries was next. And then Christopher Epling was after that. And we didn't expect to get those interviews boom, boom, boom right in a row.
But you did.
But we did. So we went with those. And a lot of people loved the interviews. But a lot of people also wanted to go back to the topic format. So we're
Right.
trying to find a good balance.
A good happy medium.
Yeah.
So, and I can totally understand that, as far as trying to, that's like the anniversary shows that we just did. There were 2 parts, and in the second part, there was more interviews and
Right.
more segments than they were,
And it's hard. I mean, it's hard to find something that makes us happy, that makes the listeners
Yeah.
happy, that makes everybody happy. But because with us, I would rather just freestyle, like you said, just have
Right.
a conversation, bring up
Yeah.
a topic at the beginning,
and just
have
go
a
with it.
conversation and go with it. But a lot of people would rather, hear the information. And I get that too. I listen
Yeah.
to those podcasts too.
And just our take on it.
Yeah, and just our take on stuff. So I understand that.
I know that we have our topics that we have planned, but I'm hoping that this our Halloween special goes over well because I would like to do a lot more on site podcast.
Yeah.
Us recording on site,
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think we have a couple more hopefully lined up.
Yeah, we got a
I don't know if
couple.
I don't think I can really disclose
No,
right
no
now,
shit.
but there's one in particular that I'm real excited about.
Well, you can tell me about it off the air.
Yeah, we will. Well, you're invited. So.
Okay. Well,
Like, when we
thank
go-
you very much. You must not want anything to happen there. So,
We gotta
Half the
test that
night you're
theory,
okay, and then
we gotta
afterwards
test
you
it.
gotta-
We have to test.
Gotta go.
We hope,
Hey.
but yeah. And then other than that, other than podcast related, we really want to get the Eastern Kentucky podcast culture. We really want to get that out there.
And that's something me and you've talked about for
Yeah.
a while. We've went back
Yeah.
and forth, and I still think that Ear Candy Network would be the way to
I
go.
do too. I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be a great idea.
even if we took a website and just named it Ear Candy Network and just had a link and description to everybody's website,
Absolutely.
I think that would be a great idea.
Absolutely.
And I'm still waiting on your clip that I can load up and put on Pandora.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So-
it
oh,
will.
yeah.
It will. No, listen. Sorry, it's been. We'll get that for you. We've got to record some stuff Monday for the Halloween special.
Okay.
And I'll make that a priority. Then.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. We'll
do
get
it
you
with the TikToks.
We'll get you in. That's you, buddy.
A little bit.
Well, I mean,
more
you can send me whatever you want. If you want to send me 20 minutes, if you want to send me an hour, you send me that.
We'll
and
get
I
you-
will put that up.
All right, we will get
So-
you that Monday night. We'll also crank out maybe 1 or 2 Elliot's articles.
What?
Yeah, we'll get those out for you too.
What?
Sorry about that.
You have said it on air.
I have.
You have
so it must
manifested
have-
this tulpa
you listen to the show.
content.
You hear how many people have asked, when's
I
Elliot's
know.
articles coming
I
back?
know, and I love those
When's
guys.
Elliot's articles coming back?
We'd really like it if those people who want Elliot's articles on Here to Chew Bubblegum would come over and talk to us on Spooky Family Podcast.
I am
Are you
probably
trying to steal listeners?
pretty sure that they
No.
do. So
Oh, I'm sure they do. I just like to hear more from them, though. I mean, email us, Elliot at spookyfamilypodcast.com. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. Some of those people that email asking about you,
Yeah.
those are the first times they've ever they've ever written in. But because with the email I've got set up,
Right.
through the website and stuff. If somebody's emailed in and you email them back, it saves it. So
Right.
you just click on one letter and it corresponds back to them. And a lot of those people, when I message them back, there's nothing there. So I have to physically look at what it is or copy and paste and put it in there, And so, those are like, people
Yeah.
that I've never emailed before, but here's what I'm emailing about. Get Elliot's articles back on there.
Yeah, well,
Season 2's coming soon.
It's coming.
So.
It's coming. We got a whole. Well, I mean, we've got a plan for it. We
Yeah.
just got to sit down and get it done.
Well, guys, I definitely appreciate it. I've held you on here almost 55 minutes
Oh,
plus
gosh, we're
the
sorry.
2 hours that we did, and I know you're
We're
probably
sorry.
tired, but thank you very much for coming in the studio, and tell everyone once again where they can find the Spooky Family Podcast app.
We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Plus. You can go to our website at spookyfamilypodcast.com. You can email me at Elliot at spookyfamilypodcast.com.
Beagle at spookyfamilypodcast.com.
And Gertie at spookyfamilypodcast.com.
Or you can text us and leave a voicemail at 299-276-1961. That's not even it, is it? I think it is, though. I don't know. We don't say it so much.
So
Fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post.
you won't fix it in post this time.
Oh,
buddy.
wait. You'll have to fix it in post. We apologize for that.
You can email. You can email, like they said, or you can call, text, or leave a voicemail for the
Yes.
Spooky Family at 276
I got him backwards.
299
You said
Okay.
that.
1681.
I was close.
276 299 1681.
Yeah.
So-
We don't ever do, we have the commercial recorded for that. So we just play it and we don't ever say it live on air. But
Thank you guys very much for coming in. Again, this has been an exclusive interview with Elliot, Gertie, and Beagle, the spookyfamilypodcast.com. Be sure to check them out and show them some love.
It's now time for Believe It or Not with Justin and Goose.
Hello, I'm Justin Perkins, and some of the best things in life just aren't quite believable.
Jot 'em down, store. Love from Abner. I'm Goose, and welcome to Believe It or Not with Justin and Goose.
You doing all right today?
Yes, I am. I am doing good. It's raining outside, but I'll take that over snow any day because I know that that's just a few months away. We are officially in October.
Yes, I'm a fall guy.
Have you got your Halloween costume yet?
Well, actually, the last minute change. My son and I we usually do a Halloween party at the house. My son and I have been planning on Harriet and Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, the orange and the blue tuxes, and he's kind of backed off of that. So if he goes with something I can't find a good match to, I will probably just fall back on another professional wrestler like I usually do.
There you go. I thought you had a mask on today. I apologize for that.
Well, I do wear the Beetlejuice mask a lot at the house. So
today we're going to talk about IBM and the Nazis.
It's a very, this story is one of those things that there's certain elements about the rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party that a lot of people forget, like him being named Times Man of the Year, and a lot of countries, including the U.S., endorsing him in those early years. It was a tricky go there at first with him.
Yes, it was. And before we get started, we always say this on Here to Chew Bubblegum: Nazis are bad, but they were brilliant in technology. They were far, far advanced ahead of us. And even some of their stuff today is still bypasses our stuff.
That's true, but this is one of those few times, it's one of those times I enjoy where they had to really fall on an American company for some help.
Yes, they did. And we're talking about IBM. And for those of you that aren't familiar with this story, I'm going to briefly read just a little bit about it. Newly uncovered Nazi-era documents shed light on an alleged role IBM played in helping Hitler to carry out the Holocaust in Poland. According to the author of a controversial book on the subject, investigative reporter Edwin Black, the author of the book entitled IBM and the Holocaust, puts forward further evidence to support his claims of IBM's knowledge and complicity in Nazi operations in wartime Poland.
I looked into this guy a little bit. Not the most credible of sources,
no.
it appears, and I found some interesting little things kind of involving other United States companies that were involved or at least business-wise were in bed with the Nazis early on.
The story goes on to say that historians working as part of Black's research team said that in the paperback, they had pieced together previously fragmented story of IBM's role in supporting the organizational machinery used to transport millions of people to Polish death camps. Basically, IBM was supposed to make some kind of machine or software.
Like a punch card.
To help keep track of people that they were putting in concentration camps.
Yeah, they did it obviously in Germany, but then when Germany overtook a couple of other countries, they did the same thing there. I don't remember exactly which country it was it worked so well in. It might have been Poland possibly, but there was already an infrastructure of that in place with the punch card deals, and when they done the census, I think the death rate was like 75%, as opposed to another place, I think it was France. They didn't have that in place. It kind of backfired on them. Their census wasn't really good, and they had 350-some thousand Jewish people living there, and I think the death rate was only like 25% because apparently for all their intelligence in other fields, Nazis aren't real smart at tracking people, and they kind of missed the boat. So, you know, the technology obviously helped them somewhat.
Yeah. Let's see, though IBM has never directly denied any of the evidence. This is a part that I found a little bit interesting. They've never denied any of the evidence posed by the book. They have criticized Black's research methods and accused him of drawing his own conclusions. IBM claimed that it does not have any other information about the company during World War II, and it argued that most documents were destroyed or lost during the war.
Well,
what do you find?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what's your response to their response?
Well, I didn't find anybody else denying it either. It was pretty clear they did it.
Yeah.
I think what probably, you know, as looking at as a modern company, looking back, obviously that's not something you wanted to be associated with. General Motors was associated with them as well. Early on, you know, before any of the real racial aspects of the Nazi Party come kind of to light. And also you got to look that the Nazi Party stayed pretty strong, having some members in the U.S. even after that. But still, before that come to light, you know, like I said, everybody thought Hitler was the greatest thing that ever walked the face of the earth until they saw his true colors. So I can understand a company getting involved with the rising economy at that point, and you know, it's business. I understand that. A lot of the issue with the IBM stuff is a lot of the German censuses were already done using, the way I understood it, some of their technology and stuff that they had in place, but IBM wasn't openly, you know, kind of interacting with it. Then this guy from IBM goes over, wins a medal from them. You know, it's pretty clear what they're doing at this point. They definitely were way past the point they should have pulled out and were given opportunity to pull out and didn't. So it is a black eye on that person and those people running that company at that time. And any profit they made was dirty money. And I understand these people today trying to distance themselves from those people. But, you know, to be fair, I can't associate these people today with those people. There's a lot of time, you know, went between that.
Right. You know, you're actually right. You know, and if it wasn't for some of the Nazi scientists, we never would have went to the moon.
Oh, no. I mean, you know, and a lot of the great scientists we got were not utilized by the Nazis because they were Jewish. You know, they were actually removed from their positions. When the Nazis took over, they removed doctors, physicians of any type, you know, scientists, teachers, lawyers, anybody of Jewish descent from that. So we actually got a lot of, and I think those are probably some of the first scientists we got from them, were the scientists that were able to escape or able to get out. And I could be butchering this because for whatever reason I can't place the year exactly, but I believe Einstein escaped Nazi Germany and came here.
Yes. I think you are correct there. This is a little off topic, but I want to ask you this before on the scale, if we believe it or not. Do you think Hitler escaped?
You know me, I'm not a huge conspiracy theory guy, and this is probably going to throw you for a little bit of a loop. I think if you were given a 1 to 10 on what I think you would say I'd probably give you an 8 that he didn't escape. I'm going to give you a 3 that he didn't escape.
Really?
I believe he did possibly make it out. I believe most definitely most of his upper echelon guys made it out, made it to South America. But to me, there seems to be a lot of evidence that if he wanted to and he took advantage of it and did not commit suicide, he easily could have gotten out.
I think he did get out because, you know, and we've talked about this before. I think you've been on the show and we've talked about it. You know, they had a dental assistant draw a picture of his teeth.
Yes.
And that's what they used to identify the body by. I mean, that right there sends up huge red flags for me.
Well, you know, what ended up being our greatest enemy to come out of that war, Russia, found him. And I'm not even saying we wouldn't have done the same thing. Here you go. This perfectly staged, planned event of a suicide's right here in front of you. You going to say it's Hitler's body? Of course you are.
Yeah, but, I mean, if it in fact is, you're going to take pictures. You're going to work the scene.
And if someone wanted to do that, if somebody in his position wanted to do that, and they would need worldwide contacts, and they need a lot of people in business and other facets of life to help them. And a story like this IBM story lends itself right to that. He had connections.
Yes, it does. So, do you believe that the Nazis had not the Nazis, but IBM? Do you believe this story?
100%.
Okay.
It's a 10 out of 10.
Okay. Now, the second part to that, and this may not be fair to ask, do you think IBM knew what they were doing with the technology that they leased to them?
That's hard to tell. And that's one of the things IBM kind of attacked this guy for, is he's outright saying they knew what it was being used for. The thing about looking back on anything is hindsight's 20/20. It's hard for me to say that they knew. Now, this is an uncomfortable thing for a lot of people, and, it's a sad thing, and I'm not accusing them of this, but I will say this. I believe there were most definitely companies in the country at that time, because most of this happened before the United States entered the war. There were a lot of people in the country at that time, and there were a lot of organizations in the country at that time that most definitely would not have had much of a problem with what Hitler was doing, because a lot of the facts about the death camps didn't come out until kind of it was used as propaganda to get people into the war. It was like, oh yeah, but wait, he done this, and I don't think a lot of Americans knew what was going on. So even if they did know, there are certain people around that time, and there would be today. I mean, there's bad people at any point in time, but there were certain people around that would have done it anyway. And, I don't know these people personally, so I can't say that they did. And the evidence kind of bounced back and forth on it. So I would, I'd have to go a 5.
Okay.
I'm 50-50 each way. It wouldn't surprise me if it were true, but there's not enough evidence to really see it.
And for starters, I do agree with you, 10 out of 10. They did lease them this technology. And you're going to 5. I'm going to say 6 that they did know and continued doing business.
There's times I lean that way. Like I said, I can see it being very possible.
Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Believe It or Not with Justin Perkins of Talking Junkie and me, Goose, of Here To Chew Bubblegum. You can email us at Believe It or Not, spelled KNOTT, at HereToChewBubblegum.com.
Take a lighter look into the darker side of the world. Join Elliot, Gertie, and Beagle as they jump into the dark abyss of hauntings, fables, UFOs, and beyond. The Spooky Family Podcast. You can find them where you listen to quality podcasts.
You can always call, text, or leave a voicemail for Here To Chew Bubblegum at 606-373-3396.
And welcome back. Great interview with Elliot, Gertie, and Beagle of the Spooky Family Podcast. Again, thank you guys very, very much for coming in and being on the show. And really enjoyed having Seth's Mysterious Appalachian Mountains on the Here To Chew Bubblegum show. Great interview with the Spooky Family. Can't wait to have those guys back on. They're balls of laugh, balls of fun, and they're very, very knowledgeable on the subjects they talk about.
Elliot, just back to the Spooky Family Podcast. It was so nice finally getting to actually meet them and interact with them. Really wonderful people. Made me feel even more at home, more than you do. Elliot and I really just kind of jive together.
Yes, you did.
And I look forward to more interaction with them.
Yes. Me as well. Coming up, before we close things out, next week, episode 54 will also be another special episode of Here To Chew Bubblegum. We've had DJ Nicky on the show before. He's been, we have interviewed him. He's been on a round table. By request, we are presenting the DJ Nicky interview again, but this time it's going to be uncut and unedited. So full length. You will hear, stuff that we say before we start recording and this and that. And it's been a while since I've listened to the thing. So you may even hear me say, I'm going to mute the mics and start the recording. You will hear all that. That's uncut, unedited, coming
Full
up
behind
next
the
week.
scenes.
Yes, in episode 54. Dirty Dan, speaking of DJ Nikki, can you tell us about Carbon Capture Shield?
Absolutely. So Carbon Capture Shield is DJ's Nikki's little love child. And Carbon Capture Shield is intending to transform 1 billion acres of Earth into regenerative land that restores the health of our natural environment, starting in your backyard. By restoring the biological life in the soil, we jumpstart the natural process which sequester greenhouse gases, break down pollutants, all while feeding and protecting your lawn from below. Go check them out, lawn.carboncaptureshield.com. Get your VIP spot today. It's only $1. I have several of them. The product is getting ready to be released. It's in the final stages of manufacturing. It is a completely healthy, all-natural, carbon regenerative spread, I'll call it, because it's not fertilizer. It's a spread.
Right.
And literally, it's 10,000 square feet is what each bag covers. It's like 30 or 40. It's the same as all the other terrible for you things in terms of fertilizers that are on the shelf of all your local stores. So instead of hurting the environment, hurting you and your loved ones and everyone around it, go support them. Lawn.carboncaptureshield.com. Get your VIP spot today so that when it's completely really released and in full production, you can get it and start saving your Earth. Also, don't forget to check out the folks over at the TVP team, TillValhallaProject.com, and our boys at Adventures with Purpose. Check them out on YouTube, Adventures with Purpose, or AdventuresWithPurpose.com.
Very, very good, my friend. Very good. I want to say special thanks to Carlin for all the voiceover work. Don't forget about the new Midlife Crisis album out now. And be sure to check out and support our friends of the show that have their own shows. I'm talking about CK and Uncle Bill over at deadpit.com, Talk Junkie with Justin Perkins, Jordan and Brad of Down on the Holler, Seth Amburgey with Seth's Daily Podcast, Elliot Gertie and Beagle over at spookyfamilypodcast.com, the Mountain Mysteries Podcast with Chris Sloan, and Cronkite, Snowman, and Large Marge over at Paranormal Trucker on YouTube. Also, don't forget, if you want to awaken more, be sure to check out Rebecca Short on TikTok and Honest Rebecca Thoughts on Twitch. And don't forget, every Friday morning at 8 a.m., you can watch Honestly Get Real with Goose and Rebecca over at our YouTube page.
And Dirtydan 974 on TikTok. That is me. I have started some quick little homegrown barbecue recipes. There are 2 more up at this time. Go check them out.
That'll do it for this week. We'll see you next week. And until then, so long for now.
Maybe I'm not leaving. Maybe I'm just going home.
Thanks for listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. Tune in next time as we dive deeper into things the government doesn't want us to know.